Look at this. What don't you see here? No Movistar pacing with the break at 7 minutes at the start of a Spanish stage race when they had one of the best puncheurs for this finish. This is the Ruta del Sol, Vuelta Ciclista a Andalucía, the first stage, 200 Ks to Iznajar, but it has a long 15K, 5.5% climb at the start. But the finish is a 1700 meter, 7.2% pinch. This is in the southwest part of Andalucía down near Cadiz. And this break got a gap of almost 14 minutes at one point. Apparently, no one was willing to pace when this break formed over that initial long, steady gradient climb. And here we have Mark Christian from YOLO, Stephen Bassett from Human Powered Health, two riders from Baloise, being Rune Herhotz and Lindsay de Wilde. There's also Okamika from Burgos. They were the best riders in this breakaway. With 72 Ks to go, there still really wasn't any panic in the peloton, and still the teams that you'd expect to be pacing weren't really pacing. AG2R Citroën brought a strong rouleur squad with Narsen, De Wolf, Greg van Avermaet, and importantly for this stage, one of the best puncheurs in the world, Benoit Cosnefroy, and they offered up a rider on the front to help Bora and Bahrain, but Bahrain had their 20-year-old Italian neopro Zambanini slight figure pacing for 20 or 30 kilometers plus. I would have thought AG2R would have been more interested in controlling this break, but the big one is Movistar. They have Gonzalo Serrano. He's won on this finish before. He won the opening stage last year. They have Luis Mas, Oliveira, Erviti here, Yuri Holman, and maybe they did use Holman, but yeah, Serrano won the uphill sprint last year against Hayter and Impey, very fast guy. When he was on Caja, he literally won on this same finish ahead of Lobato and Turns, and they didn't seem to really want to pace. Now, Bahrain offered a guy just to control it on the front, but they got Poles, Landa, Haig here, more GC focused for the harder stages. Maybe there's an explanation from Movistar. I don't know. There was a bit of hubbub even on their Twitter in the responses being like, why didn't you pace for Gonzalo today? But I'm willing to give them a pass, given that the peloton are experiencing pretty extraordinary times right now with guys in and out of shape, riding when they're not at peak fitness, trying to cobble teams together. Anyway, breakaway, 4 minutes 40 with 20 Ks to go. If they didn't mess it up, they were going to stay away to the finish. And somewhat curiously, despite being the strongest rider in the breakaway, Rune Herhotz, who won Ronde van Drenthe, the last UCI race just about of the season last year, he kept attacking this group, despite having a teammate, De Wilde, who didn't look as strong in the group. Normally, you might want to do the bait attacks with the weaker rider, while the stronger rider, Herhotz, sits in and marks moves, and he would continually up the pace towards the end of the crest of climbs. But 13 Ks, the gap had dropped by 2 minutes. Whilst they'd been cat and mousing, you see De Wilde sitting on here, it split up, it'd come back together again. Perhaps Herhotz thought a harder race suited him. Meanwhile, Ineos were pacing. They also, with Ben Turner, strong rouleur neopro, they had Narvaez, who maybe the stage finish would suit as well, but they looked more to be controlling things for GC for Carlos Rodriguez. So 5 Ks to go, we were going to have a breakaway win in Ruta del Sol, and the question was, would it be Bassett, Okamika, or Herhotz who looked like the strongest rider, and how would they approach the climb? In fact, would they cat and mouse so much that if the peloton got a move on, and AG2R did eventually move up with one rider for Cosnefroy pretty late, but it was too late at that point, maybe then they could bring back the break. And even you had Rune Herhotz pacing into the base of the climb with De Wilde sitting on. They eventually had a chat here at the base. I think Herhotz telling De Wilde, hey, just empty yourself on the front for me. That is 1.1K, a little bit steeper than 7% in parts as well. Quite a steep, nasty climb up to Iznajar. And I guess the peloton is lucky, A, that they reduced that gap, and B, that there's no long ITT here in Andalucía like there is in Algarve, because Herhotz is a pretty fast time trialist. Meanwhile, behind him, Covey had attacked after Stibar had attacked and rolled over the top of him. We're seeing the supply chain shortages in the bicycle industry hitting hard here, with Covey having to ride with 2 different coloured shoes. He's in good form, but how that will affect him moving forward, we will have to wait and see. Breakaway would still win by over 30 seconds though, despite the cat and mousing, with Bassett and Okamika actually the ones getting the most nervous and jumping the gun, whilst Herhotz paced a little bit behind them conservatively. Bassett jumping early through the shortest line through this corner. Herhotz in the saddle with very narrow bars, by the way. High socks, different socks to De Wilde. Maybe he seems pretty aero-focused, Herhotz. He comes around, Bassett. We don't see it in the side-on fixed shot. Bassett moved into Gerhards there, who bumps him, actually makes Bassett unclip, and takes the win. Rune Master, here is your god. Will be on Quickstep Lotto Intermarché next year. Rune Gerhards. Did Remco Evenepoel win today? No. Did Rune Gerhards win today? Yes. 2 races in a row. Ronde van Drenthe takes the off-season off, wins here, goes into the leader's jersey. One of the most underhyped young Belgian prospects there is. But yeah, as I said, we will see him in World Tour next year, I would assume, with his contract being up at Baloise at the end of this year. But great job from Topsport Vlaanderen and Baloise to get the win here, to get 2 guys in the breakaway, 2 strong guys too. Like, you don't get a 12, 14-minute gap over the peloton by cruising around. They must have been driving it early. He is a rider to watch. And I do think Movistar will probably be ruining, or Gonzalo Serrano be wondering what he could have done if he'd had some more help pacing that breakaway back today. He won the sprint behind. He wasn't able to bring back Covey, but he was quicker than Trentin and Cosnefroy. But Gerhards takes it ahead of Bassett, Okamika, Isasa de Vilda, Christian Covey, Serrano, Trentin, and Benoit Cosnefroy. Tomorrow's stage, a lot hillier. It's the Alcalá La Real finish, but not as many cobbles last year. Up and down all day. I recently put up the Ethan Hayter video. This was a similar finish to last year, but last year's was harder. Expect to see similar riders like Serrano, Cosnefroy for the stage tomorrow. I'd expect the peloton to be a bit more active chasing. Look out for Lutsenko, who is in magic form, particularly on steep, bad surfaces, as he showed in Jaén at the start of this week. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Algarve coverage is on the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. As always, link in the comment pin down below, and I'll see you with Stage 2 highlights tomorrow.